Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I have a very important chart that I'm going to be breaking down, explaining a fractal going all the way back from our very first altcoin cycle to the cycle that we're at today. I firmly believe that we are about to see the biggest alt run in the cycle since 2017, and this is going to be the most profitable one that we can ever be prepared for because it's going to be paired with the institutional cycle. I firmly believe we're going to make more money this cycle than ever before for the people that are positioned and the people that are ready to capture it when the real money sets in. So for today's video, I'm going to break it down and explain exactly why I think that this scenario is going to play out and how we can be prepared for it when it does take place. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to start off today's video, and we are going to be jumping into the reason why I believe that the altcoins are set for such a monumental cycle. Anybody that was there in 2016 and 2017 will understand just how crazy the markets can get and how profitable they can set up. Now, most people weren't around that long ago, and the majority of people that still are, there's a very few amount of you at this point, but hats off to anybody that still managed to stick around throughout the entirety of these cycles. Anybody that was positioned in 2016, that was when I got into the market, you got to really see how that entire cycle played out. And in our last cycle, as profitable as it was, it really just wasn't even comparable. It just was not even the same significance in price action. The ROI was not even close to the same. And I mean, that's to be expected. When the market gets adoption, the volatility is going to die out. That was a time when the majority of altcoins had pretty small market caps, so it didn't take very much to send the values very high. But the thing is, most people think that it's impossible that we're ever going to have another 2017 alt cycle again, just because they assume that there's too much money in the market nowadays. And I don't think that that's the case. The way that I view our entire last cycle is the same when we're looking at the first cycle for the altcoins, because they follow the same sort of trend. I'm not sure why they follow the same price action, but they seem to be repeating the same fractal as well. If we look over here at the top of the cycle, we get the same pattern where we get these two lower highs, and really you could even draw this little short-term support in there, but then this is what sends us into this little short-term consolidation. We made a lower low, and then this is our first real consolidation that we have. Both of them look the same, this little W type pattern, and then that's what takes us into our final capitulation right there, and then right here. Now, if you guys notice, we make the same pattern even after the capitulation, where we make this first little lower high and the breakout of the new trend, right? Because we have descending resistance all throughout here. This is the first time that we actually ended up breaking that, and that happened in both of these setups. The price structure ends up following itself almost completely. Once we top from this lower high, we come all the way back down to trending support. Same thing happened inside of our last bear market. Then we get this first little kind of shakeout. The only difference was ours ended up coming all the way back down to retest our range low for a double bottom, because we had the COVID sell-off. If we wouldn't have had that, I'm sure it would have just ended up playing out in this exact same sort of way. And what I found interesting was the only difference between this and this is it's just a longer period of time in this cycle that we've been in than the last one. And that's to be expected. What we talked about a little bit with Bitcoin is how that first cycle that it ever went through, it didn't follow a 4-year cycle as much because it only had $2 million of total market cap at the bottom of that cycle, and it only had $22 million at the top of that cycle. So it was really, really, undervalued big picture. So it makes sense why it didn't quite follow the same parallels. But what I find interesting is that the altcoin total market cap today and the altcoin total market cap of the first cycle looks exactly the same. The only difference is we just haven't got that same sort of move into new price discovery. Our last cycle looks exactly like that first breakout that we saw. Our first cycle of 2016 was just this first little leg up, right? This was the leg up to start that 2016 and 2017 uptrend. And this was where we broke out and retested those prior highs as new support. We got our first run up right here, retested that, and then this entire move here was more or less just us consolidating on top of the range highs as support, the prior all-time highs. Now in our last cycle, where we're currently at today, it looks exactly like that same setup, where we ran all the way up, and then we started just consolidating on top of those prior highs as new support. The price structure looks a little bit different, but overall you guys are getting the point that I'm trying to make. This is a much shorter consolidation, and this is a much shorter consolidation. When we're comparing this and this, it's a much shorter period of time, but the difference is it takes more money to move the market in that same sort of way. I still believe that we are going to be getting ready for this 2017 bull run, and that's exactly where we're at. We're at the same moment of time where we consolidated right on those prior all-time highs as new support, and that's where the altcoin total market cap is today, just consolidating right on those prior highs. So our entire last cycle, it couldn't have been the most profitable one because we had a pandemic. That was really the big reason why it wasn't, in my opinion. But our entire last cycle was just the breakout of prior all-time highs and then us retesting those as new support. So when we're looking at this chart, all we've really done is broken out of the last cycle, and this is going to be the cycle where we actually run into price discovery. And I do believe that there's multiple different things that are pointing towards this conclusion playing out, and one of the main things is the Bitcoin dominance. We've been talking a lot about this because I think it's super important that everybody understands this chart. By understanding this chart, we have an idea of where the market is going to be heading for altcoins, because anytime this chart does well, altcoins are underperforming, Bitcoin is gaining market dominance and gaining market share from the altcoins. And as you guys can tell, this chart has been in a long-term downtrend forever. And if we come over here and actually look at the Bitcoin dominance, this chart goes a little bit further back in history. We have only ever been in a long-term downtrend. And I think that that is just going to be the most important thing people understand, is that long-term Bitcoin has kind of always been in this downtrend. So when we're coming back into contact with this descending resistance, we're going to be expecting to see some type of reaction. So far, in this descending resistance that we have built, we have two different data points. We have this one coming all the way at the beginning of 2017, that bull cycle, and then we have this one right here, which was at the bottom of the COVID capitulation of our last cycle. Now we're coming back into contact with that same descending resistance. The question is this actually going to end up holding? Are we going to end up seeing this truly hold as resistance before Bitcoin ends up selling down and maybe goes for a brand new low? In my opinion, the reason why this cycle will be so powerful is because not only are we seeing the altcoins consolidating on top of their prior all-time highs of that last cycle as new support, we're getting ready for a much bigger move into price discovery, but it's also lining up perfectly with the Bitcoin dominance, considering the fact that 2017 was so powerful because altcoin dominance was rising. They were gaining market share against Bitcoin. They were outperforming their Bitcoin ratios. All of that was taking place in 2017, and that's why it's so important this chart goes down, is because if this goes down, then that shows the altcoins are making profit over Bitcoin. So 2017 was that bull run. The difference was in our last cycle, because this was 2020 to 2021, I guess you could say, that was this cycle right here. Notice how this never actually made a lower low. The reason why this last cycle wasn't nearly as powerful was because it was just a bearish consolidation. Bearish price discovery is when you're making an all-time low. It's in price discovery in the bearish side. So when we're looking at this, we never made a lower low past the peak that Bitcoin dominance bottomed at January 1st of 2018. So we've never actually made a peak low. Even when we bottomed here, we consolidated for, almost a year, just going sideways. Actually, a year and a half, I think, is what it was that we did go sideways right here before we started running up. So where we're at right now is now at the point where we're probably going to see a pivot point, a shift happen in the market, where we're finally going to end up rejecting. And if we do reject, because our last cycle was just this bearish consolidation, if this ends up playing out as another lower high, this is a long-term downtrend, right? This would look like some type of weird descending triangle, this entire thing, before we have this massive breakdown, probably going anywhere from like 10 to 20% dominance. And we would have to assume that if that happens, it would line up perfectly with our altcoin total market cap chart showing that we're just sitting on top of those prior highs before price discovery sets in. That's the exact same moment of time that we're at today. If we see this happen, there's going to be so much money to be made in altcoins, and technically this is the very best time you could get into altcoins, shift money into altcoins as this is coming to this resistance. Because if we do see a top here, there won't be a better time to basically shift into those altcoins. So I hope this makes sense. I wanted to summarize some thoughts, give you guys a really detailed summary on why I believe this cycle is going to be so powerful for the altcoins. We're really setting up for some beautiful things. Institutions are 100% going to be piling in around this ETF. I believe that that's really what's going to fuel this next bull run, and we're going to see so much institutional adoption that the institutional guys are going to have exit liquidity somehow. And the only real way that any of these smart money players that always drive the value of these markets get out is by usually the retail wave that sets in at the very end from all of the mainstream news, everybody covering it at the same time, NFTs blowing up, everybody getting in for various reasons. That's generally when we see the majority of the mania set in, and that's when smart money takes profits. So where we're at right now, it's just the beginning of that. And I do think that with all of that institutional money and all of that retail money, the real retail money is the reason we're going to see so many of these altcoins taking off. Because don't get me wrong, a lot of these altcoins are going to be institutionally owned. A lot of them are going to be focused on by institutions. I think that they're going to get adoption 100%. But the majority of these are not going to see adoption aside from just the hype that sets in with the market, people just speculating. So that's going to be setting in here, in my opinion, very soon once we do finally end up topping from this. And this next cycle is going to be the most profitable one just because of the fact it'll be like 2017 when we're finally in bearish price discovery against the altcoins, and that is always, you know, the most bullish scenario for the altcoins possible. I think that we've got really one more good cycle for the altcoins left, and from there, you know, it's kind of hard to say what's going to happen, but if this is the institutional bubble, this is the one that we want to be prepared for because majority of the money and profit is probably going to end up being made in this move. So just wanted you guys to be aware, be prepared for whatever scenario plays out, and this is kind of what I'm betting on moving forward. So if you guys did find value, do me a favor, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys want to see how I'm positioning myself over the bull run, anything I'm buying, anything I'm selling, trading, NFTs, DeFi stuff, anything that I'm hearing about the market, whether it's a pre-sell opportunity, whatever it is, if you guys want to get access to any of that, you guys can actually join my VIP group on Discord. The way you would actually join is to sign up on my website linked below. From there, it's just a one-time payment, lifetime access. So if you guys pay and sign up, you're always going to have access to anything that I'm doing in the markets. Even if I take profits, well, when I take profits on crypto and start moving into various markets like uranium, that's another big thing I'm really looking into heavily, and I've already got some positions in. So if you guys do want to be able to see any of this, how I'm positioning long-term, links are in the description. With that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in. I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.